Today I'm going to show you how to build this crib mattress swing. All of the materials and tools I use will be linked in the description. I'm going to try and build this swing with as many scrap boards as I have. Once you've decided on the dimensions of your swing, go ahead and start cutting down all the 2x4s to length. I'm using the miter saw for this, and don't forget to wear good hearing protection.
Okay, quick note right here. At the end of my board, there are 2 knots. Not sure how well you guys can see this, but I want to cut this off so that this is waste. You never, especially when you're doing pocket hole joinery, want to have knots at the end of the board because this is a weaker section of wood. So we're going to cut this board in such a way that this goes off as waste so that our joints can be as strong as possible. For the sake of time, I'm not going to show you all of the joints on the swing. We'd be here for an hour, but I do want to show you a really quick principle about what not to do when you're using a Kreg jig. Okay, so here are 2 2x4 cutoffs that I'm using to illustrate this point. Lumber has 3 different types of grain. There's the face grain, the edge grain, and the end grain. Strong joints are made when you use either the face grain or the edge grain. Never use the end grain when connecting 2 boards together. So the proper way to connect these 2 boards would look something like this with a Kreg jig. I'm using a face grain right here to go into an edge grain. What you wouldn't want to do is something more like this, where I'm taking a face grain and attaching it to the end grain. That I could probably tear apart with my hands. So make sure when you're building your swing or any other project that this is not how you attach boards. For the assembly of this project, we're going to be using 2.5 inch Kreg screws. Don't try to do pocket hole joinery if you're using a Kreg jig with non-Kreg screws. I know they're a little more expensive, but trust me, these screws are designed to work with the pocket holes of the Kreg system. So use these. Also, I'm using the blue screws. These are their outdoor grade screws. They're gonna guard against corrosion, rust, all that kind of thing. So I'm gonna go over here, show you how we're gonna assemble everything. Okay, so here's what the bracing of my swing looks like. In each corner, I have the 45 braces. Remember, triangles make for stronger projects. And then in the middle, I have a runner in between the 2 main braces, because that's where most of the weight will be when people sit down on the swing. Let me show you a few tips about the joints. Right here, you might be tempted to come from the face grain of this 2x4 and just drill straight in to that board. But remember, you'll be drilling into end grain, which is not as strong, so that's why we're still using the pocket hole jig for this. And then here on these 45s, don't be tempted to drill into the face grain because you'll be drilling into end grain. So we're gonna actually start on the inside with these and drill from one face grain to another face grain. I wanted to point out that as you're ripping these boards for the bottom of the swing, if you have a knot like this on the edge of one of your boards, that is a weak spot. I mean, you can see like the wood's already starting to crack. So make sure you put this in a spot strategically. Preferably, we're gonna probably want this toward the back because no one's gonna really be sitting in the back there. So just kind of arrange the knots that way. A knot like this, that's right here in the middle of the board, that's gonna be okay. But some of these other ones that are right on the edge, especially if the knot goes all the way through the board like it does right here, that is a major weak spot. So keep that in mind as you're securing the boards. Okay, so here is the main structure of the swing. I just put the bottom slats in. A couple of notes here. I love these tools. These are called 1, 2, 3 blocks, and that is because they measure 1 inch on this face, 2 inches, 2 inches this way, and 3 inches this way. Anyways, I use these 1 inch as spacers, and that way it was super quick and super easy to make sure all of these were exactly 1 inch. Okay, so now it's time for us to think about how this swing will be secured to the ceiling of the porch where I'm gonna be hanging it. A lot of swings are secured by the arm, but I don't like this design for 2 reasons. One, it's an armrest, and so if you have 2 chains coming up right here, it kind of defeats the purpose of having an armrest. But more importantly, from a structural standpoint, what did we do right here? We actually broke our own rule and drilled this into the end grain. I know, I designed this knowing that this arm was not gonna be where the chains were. So this should hold okay because this is not really load bearing anyway. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take 2 2x4s and run them beneath this entire swing. They're going to jut out on either side, and that is where we will secure the chains to the swing.
Here I'm using a black solid stain made by Cabot. They don't sponsor the channel, I just think they make an awesome product.
Right now I have our swing basically facing forward. So these 2 braces are gonna be where the chains connect. So I'm gonna drill a 3/8 inch hole right here, and then we're going to mount the carriage bolts. These carriage bolts are 3/8 of an inch thick. So when you drill your hole, you don't need to use a bigger drill bit. So if you're using a 3/8 inch carriage bolt, just go ahead and use a 3/8 inch drill bit.
Here I'm using a screwdriver to drive our eye bolt into the rafter. And here it is. I love the way this turned out. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, consider liking the video. It really helps me bring you more helpful content, and also subscribe. I'm always talking about woodworking projects and landscaping.